Hello, good afternoon to all, and welcome here for history optional classes. Right, I am Mohammad Tariq, and we are here to help you in history optional, ancient, medieval, modern, and world history. I will take modern Indian history. My other colleagues like Chandrabhan Sahib would take world history, Rohan Sahib would take medieval history, and Praveen Dikshit would take ancient Indian history, right? So, in the next few minutes, what we are going to discuss that why you should take history. Of course, many of you must have decided, and many of you are not in final line which one you have to take it, right? But I have to tell what are the advantages which history would give in UPSC and how to capitalize this subjects to enhance your marks not only in optional but also in general studies main exam and prelims exam. Then also how to use history's knowledge, which I'm sure you are going to get in the next 5 6 months, for essay. And one essay you can easily get directly from history. Sometimes they ask direct questions on Gandhi, sometime on Mahatma Buddha, sometime on Bhakti Sufi's thought. And a student who have read history, for her or for him, it would not be very difficult to just get the notes. But what history would give you, very important point I will tell you very shortly. Then, how in personality test or what you call interview, at least out of say 30 minutes, your 5 6 minutes, you can do very well with the help of history. Of course, some other subjects like economy, like foreign affairs, like your constitution knowledge, your current affairs, each one are going to play an important role. But at least on an average, what my experience says, 5 6 minutes, you can do very well. It depends upon at which slot this comes. Sometime in the very beginning, sometime in mid, sometime in the end. So if you look at carefully, that history optional which fetches you 500 marks and you should aim around 280 plus, which is very much possible because many my candidate including ranker 1 and many other rankers had got 300 plus, right? And if I assess last 20 plus years of selection wise, a few subjects are consistent. There are highs and lows for some other subject, but history is one subject which is very consistent. Now, the general perception in market or among a student is some subject is lengthy, some is short. Am I right? I'm sure you also must have this perception. Actually, what appears from outside and what is inside are two different. So when you see some subject syllabus is very brief, say public administration certain part, but once you start reading thought, then you realize that the time which would take to read thought of one great thinker, in that time you can do 4 topics of history. I hope you're getting. Now, this is something which you would not know because you had never studied this subject. So, there is a misconception about the length. For instance, if you read literature, so generally the syllabus of most literature looks simple, but to understand poetry itself is a big task. You cannot decode one couplet properly, and one couplet may give you 20 marks, and sometime you devoted your whole months and you could not understand the couplet. That is why you have to see from the time it takes, how much times to finish rather than what appears from outside. You understood this? So remove this myth that some syllabus is so short, some is long. UPSC wants to bring all at par, what is called level playing game. So they do not want to put some students with extra burden, some with less burden. That is one point. Another important point, eight, that if I am not from history background, I did my BTech or I did some other courses, how would I complete this topic? Am I right? But on an average, if you look at in Missouri and Hyderabad, who are right now getting training, over 65% students are engineers. Around 15-16% are doctors. And what are the subjects they have chosen? The same social sciences, these 7, 8. So this is a trend, especially after 2013, that large number of students who are professionals are in civil services, but their subjects are the same. So you have to be serious for this study, planned, get right material, right ideas in the classes, whatever subject suits you, you choose it. But here I am to help how history would help in various parts of general studies. First, in prelims, around 20 to 22 questions directly from ancient, medieval, and modern history would be asked. This is the average of last 20 years. Now, a student who have studied history, she can score 15 out of 20. The other students would not do even 8 or 9 out of 20. And that can be a very decisive factors in your prelim selection. You understand this? And since prelims itself is a big exam now, because over 5-6 lakh students appear, 12-13,000 are going to be called for main. So obviously, you cannot take it prelims easily or lightly. Am I right? So how this subject is going to help in prelims? You understood this? And you do not have to study separately for history general studies, because in our classes you would get enough material, facts, data, concept. You just have to revise. And of course, here in Vajiram, you would get some test of general studies. So these are enough as far as history part of prelims is concerned. Now, in the main exam, you are going to get direct questions in paper 1, that is from ancient, medieval, art and culture, world history, etc. But in paper 1 there is another segment which is called social issues. I'm sure you are aware about it. Now, this topic is taught in two subjects, sociology and history. For instance, when you're talking about women, when you're talking about workers, when you're talking about tribals, when you're talking about peasants, when you're talking about communalism in many Indian cities, when you're talking about migration of laborers, all are part of modern Indian history. I'm already teaching modern history to one batch and finished last batch. And one of the topic which is going right now is the workers' movement in modern India. So a student who studied this, she or he can just continue in post-independent, which is in social issues. So that means your 70% part is completed through history. Remaining 30-40% you have to get it from current. And that is how in social issues that is more current oriented. But if you do not know why the tribal, why the Nagas are revolting, Naxals are revolting, what is the genesis? You cannot write what is happening today, because it is connected with 1960s, connected with 1920s and 30s. That is how history would help to crack many questions of social issues. In paper 2 of GS, you have constitutional history of India. So right from 1773 Regulating Act till 1947 Indian Independence Act, you are going to get a lot of acts. But more importantly, how the framing of the constitution was done by Constituent Assembly. What are those ideas under leadership of Gandhi and freedom struggle leaders, and how they wrote preamble, fundamental rights, directive principle. That journey is very interesting, and that you would know first through history, then through constitution. In the same second paper, you have a segment called IRE, right? International relation. What is IR? IR is an extension of world history, because in world history you would read in any case till late 1990s, with the fall of USSR, deglobalization. All these are topic of IR. So student who read carefully what is called Cold War, New World Order, and how the Trump regime is going to dislodge many established norms, how Russia, US, China, India relationship has its past. So student who read world history and modern Indian history. For them, reading current IR is both interesting and also easy to grasp compared to those who are reading first time and who had some other optional. Now, in paper 3 of paper 4 of GS, you have ethics and morality. Direct question they ask from Gandhi. They have asked already last year on Vivekanand, last to last year Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore, right? So what point they want to check in paper 4, that how the ethics and morality taught by some great thinkers of India, from Mahatma Buddha, Mahavir Jain, to Sufi Bhakti saints like Guru Nanak. They had asked question on Guru Nanak few years back, and how you can apply in administration. That is what the idea of this one. So you would have a first hand information as well as in-depth understanding in some of my classes, in some medieval classes, in some ancient classes. So you would find that at least 20 to 25% portion of your paper 4 is covered through history. I hope you are getting. Now, in essay, I already told you that at least one essay they ask directly out of two essay which you have to write from history itself. But more than that, how history would help in essay and personality development, that is the point which I wanted to tell, that this would help in development of your intellectual caliber, and that intellectual caliber is developed by only few subjects. Generally social sciences helps a lot. The kind of depth required in IAS writing, interview, essay writing, and to get top 100, top 150 rank to get your key post, you must bring some intellectual depth in your answer writing. You cannot just write with the help of study materials. Study materials can only inform you, but the depth, like when you're talking about nationalism and how this right wing globally has emerged from America to India to Turkey to many European countries, how this right left world is divided. And when you say in India right wing, meaning is different. When you say in America right wing, meaning is different. I hope you're getting. Now, what are the reasons and how it is connected with current world politics, current world diplomacy? A student of history would easily understand the very origin, because right left wing originated from French Parliament in the 1790s. And when it started, the meaning was different, but how it evolved later on. For instance, when you are talking about gender issues, when you're talking about race issue, when you're talking about in India communalism, regionalism, casteism, and why center and state are always at loggerhead. You have noticed Tamil Nadu versus Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan recently, a war of words have started. But you have to write as a student of history, and you would notice that the idea of India which evolved during freedom struggle, that period itself, certain serious questions emerged, and that is because India is vast and complex. So there are certain privileged class in India. There are certain dominant caste and dominant language. Like Hindi is a dominant language. You like it or you do not like it. But 40 crore plus people speaks Hindi. And generally what happens, like I come from North India. So I may support more Hindi rather than a person who comes from Dravidian family. But history would make you much wiser, that you do not have to be biased towards your own language, because an administrator would work in different parts of India. So a person who is from Hindi heartland and now posted in Tamil Nadu, and a person who is from Kerala now posted in Bihar, so he or she has to bring the idea of India with their administration. So UPSC wants that mental growth in your answer, both writing and in interview. So quite often when a student appear in interview, over 50% students get less than 50% marks or close to 50% marks in interview. Why so? Despite the fact she has or he had clear mains, prelims, but why so poor marks in interview? And in that half an hour interview, it is like make or break. All your 2 years' work is decided in just 30 minutes. It looks like cruel, but actually 85% weightage they have already given to main, and only 15% weightage is given to interview. But that 15%, if you get 180 plus, 190 plus, because many of my candidates, including highest in India, was my student, luckily, she got 220. She is right now in Calcutta. 206, 215, 204, 202. I have plenty of my students, but I also have some student who got 98. He was also my student. And I know why he got 98, because we warned him. The way he talked, the way he behaved in interview was a problematic. And this is something history, and he was not a history background student, right? He was from some mechanical background, and history background students would never get less than 175 in interview. That is also very interesting point, that how in interview, these are called, I call, hidden marks. So often students think only in optional. So even if you get history, just say 240, but in GS you are getting 440. In essay you are getting 125 to 130. In interview you are getting 175 to 180. You are 100% selected with flying colors. Rather than you are getting 280 in your optional and poor in GS and poor in essay and poor in interview, you are not selected. Now, this is something very few people have done. This homework I have done already with all my students of history optional, that how history is reflected in other GS essay interview. And with all my sincerity, I can tell no other subject would help. Though each subject is good, let me tell you, right? Because I have many my friend other subjects also, but that is not the point. Each subjects are good as long as you are interested. But objectively speaking, political science, history, sociology are going to help in many subjects. But history, since is dealing other subjects also, like once you deal history, you have to know science and technology in ancient time, in medieval times. Once you know history, you have to know the constitutional development of modern India. Once you know history, you have to know the women and tribal, which is taught in sociology also. So this history is like everywhere. It's like potato in our vegetable. हर सब्जी में थोड़ी सी आलू लोग डाल ही देते हैं, am I right? ऐसी history is one subject that every subject is linked with somehow history. In social sciences and humanities, you cannot read any literature of world without referring history. You cannot read sociology, current polity, economy without reading history. Though a historian can do without a particular subject depending upon his subject, but others cannot do without use of history. I often remember in my university, a lot of professors of English, Hindi, Urdu, and physics would talk to me about, say, Aryabhat. Even math department would often talk. Then about one gentleman was talking about Muhammad bin Tughlaq when went to South, and how Urdu language developed in South called Dakkani Urdu with the migration of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But he didn't know what is the period of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So he was asking me, and I told you this is the period when he went, that is 1325 to 27. That is called shifting of capital from Delhi to Daulatabad. You know that? Which was called Devgiri. And how those North Indians lived, and how Urdu became lingua franca, a link between North and South. And you know why Urdu and Hindi is spoken up to Karnataka? Not in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. If you go in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, people do not generally understand Urdu and Hindi. And one reason is Delhi Sultanate. The Delhi Sultans had their rule. You heard Bahmani kingdoms? Very famous, Vijayanagar Bahmani. So the Bahmanis had their rule in Golconda. That is what is Hyderabad today. They had their rule in Bijapur, what is in Karnataka. So because these people went, the North Indian elite were speaking Persian, South Indians were speaking their Dravidian language, and Urdu was the lingua franca. what English became later on during British period. You understood this? And since Urdu and Hindi was not two separate languages till 19th century, it was called Hindustani. And it was written in both script, one from right to left, one is from left to right. And that is what called Hindustani. So the language which you see in Hindi cinema, Hindi song, is actually both Urdu and Hindi. All the songs which you hear in your Hindi songs, Kabhi Kabhi Mere Dil Mein Khayal Aata Hai, is actually written in Urdu, written by Sahir Ludhianvi. And Lata Mangeshkar to Kishore Kumar would sing from right to left, she would read. Arijit Singh read from left to right, current singer. But till 1990s, all the singers of Hindi cinema would read in right to left, because as I told, Urdu and Hindi was not officially separated till 19th century. And how Urdu and Hindi became communal in 19th century, that also you would learn through history, and how language is so important in India, which is of course in 8th schedule. So what my point is that how history would give you that intellectual depth, that depth is going to be used in multiple places in IAS exam, right? And that is something which is very hidden, which many students do not know. You can get it from our classes, and of course the handouts which I will and we will give you, and recommend very brief books. Not too much books is required in IAS, right? But the way you study, grasp, make points, and answer writing. This, of course, requires some time, certain efforts, which you have to do in any case with any subject. But how history would help, that is what my point. So do not have any doubt about any subject, and particularly about history, right? If you have any question, online friend or offline, you can always ask. And one candidate is asking whether history and sociology. This is you have to decide, right? I said each subjects are good depending upon your interest. But what I know about history, I told. I'm sure the sociology faculty would tell also. But in sociology, you don't get too much prelims question. I hope you agree with this one. So that is one advantage, that in history you have 20 question, which is directly from history. So it's like this in our tradition, when Pandit ji would fix marriage between a boy and a girl, what Pandit ji would see, Kundali matching or not. You know that? And I think, sorry, there are 32 qualities which they look, and maximum कितने qualities उसमें match हो रहे हैं, and then ये अच्छी जोड़ी, ऐसा है, बिलीफ है ऐसा, बिल्कुल ऐसी है कि सबसे ज्यादा कुंडली मैंने देखी है वो हिस्ट्री से मिलती है. This is my way of understanding. So obviously, if I have to bank upon, it's like this, that if you have to invest money in the market, mutual fund is the safest one, most expert would say. Direct in equity is risky. So history is like a mutual fund, that you invest with certain dividend, assured dividend, 12 to 14, 15%. In equity, you can go 40%, or you can crash as has crashed in the last few weeks. Am I right? So this is what I said, that do not take adventurous subjects just because some topper has taken. Because don't forget, in the top 20, all subjects are represented. Just scan last 10 years result. Top 50, almost all subject which is UPSC has given is also represented. And each toppers would talk about his or her choice. So obviously they are also not wrong. But you cannot bank upon one or two toppers' suggestions. And since I taught many toppers also, so I know what they generally tell the best part of their preparation. And sometimes they romanticize also their past life. I was reading under street lamp. अब आजकल स्ट्रीट लैंप में पढ़ने वाला कोई नहीं है. It's almost like you hear Amitabh Bachchan slept on platform 2-3 nights. So it's look like very romantic when you read, and that is a very common problem in India. that once you are in media, in limelight, you try to encash also. Okay, so do not fall in trap of that kind of. Read some good thing from the toppers, like how they manage time, how they self motivated, how they were persistence and perseverance, which brought the result undoubtedly. But when they propagate a particular coaching, when they propagate a particular material, be careful. They are now marketing. Because I know personally many my students who never studied in a coaching and now advertise for that coaching. This is unethical. If their very beginning is wrong, then imagine they would emerge another Pooja Khedkar or another Samir Wankhede. You know, these people who are in news for wrong reason. And obviously, I don't want my student to be in wrong reason. I'm very proud that many my students are today DM and commissioners and DIG level, as well as many SPs in almost every parts of India. And I can tell with great confidence, after Ravindran sir, I have maximum students placed across the country. And that, of course, all of them are not from history background because I am teaching general studies also. So, what my point is that do not have that kind of, myth about any subject unless you have a complete knowledge, right? Okay. History can be done by self-study. You know, all subjects can be done without any coaching, without any teacher, undoubtedly. But it takes time. It takes time. What you can get it in 6 months, it will take 3 years for you, because what we are going to bring from various experiences, and to read those, to get that, you have to read plenty of books. So even today, I attended lectures of some of the great historians. I attended live, and nowadays I watch YouTube also. And this I am doing it regularly because knowledge is very scattered, and you have to get it from various sources. Coaching has a great advantage. The advantage is that what you can do in 3 years, here you can do it five and 6 months in a very compact, because we have designed the syllabus, materials, and in the classes, and in your face-to-face interaction. When you read, you would have a doubt. After one day, you can come and you can ask. That would help a lot. So that is the advantage of coaching. So today, almost all students are taking one or another type of coaching, online or offline, optional or GS, or through test series and then discussion. Gone are the days when they can do on their own. It's very difficult because of 2 3 reasons. One, syllabus is very vast, it takes time, and GS is huge. Even optional questions are no longer of honors level, it is already of PG level, some of the questions in each optional, right? On obviously you might not have done any course in history, so a faculty and those experience would help you to minimize your time as well as maximize your output. That is one reason. The second reason is this, that in the last uh, 15 years, the kind of candidates who are appearing, thanks to 2007 economic slowdown, lot of, I know many my students who were in IT, but the career was not, sure. So some of the best students left job and wrote IAS exam. So you are going to compete with IITians from IIM students. पहले IIM के बंजा नहीं आता था. Now I saw many my student, one candidate, she is Bhanu Prabha, IAS in Delhi. She was from IIM. One Shrishti Gupta, she is in railway service right now. She was from IIM Ahmedabad. Now can you? When I saw her first time profile and I asked, IIM Ahmedabad, IAS में क्या कर रहा? But now, because of the insecurity in the private sector, and of course civil service always had certain social respect, crazy thing about administration, right? So many AIMS students, imagine AIMS and Maulana Azad, the top medical college, and I taught one my student, she is Shumaila Chaudhary, IPS, right? Himachal cadre. She was a student from Maulana Azad Medical College, and her marks, when I asked, was one of the top 10 students. Now, some best students of medical, IIT, IIM are appearing in this exam, and you have to compete with them. So when you are competing with the best, when the syllabus is long, you have to take help of experts. Today, you are taking experts in every branch. Like I am taking help in all, whether it is medical or my daughter's admission or anything, a consultant. And that is because in this modern age, you have to take. Government of India is taking help of various consultants apart from their own ministry staffs. So you have to be professional in this age. So if you're doing on your own, as I told, it will take 2 years, 3 years, no guarantee also. Here in 1 year of GS plus optional, you are at least sure that what is needed is given in the classes. Now, of course, your own hard work and your own strategy. Clear about this one? Okay. Coaching is not sufficient, let me tell you. Coaching would help you to bring certain depth, certain variety, but coaching would guide you in which direction you have to walk. If you think that coaching can make you an IAS, I hope you are aware about it. It is impossible. You understood this? Without coaching, you can do that. But coaching is not guarantee that you are going to crack this exam. Otherwise, पूरा राजेंद्र नगर IAS बन जाता, पूरा मुखर्जी नगर IPS बन जाता. Am I right? So do not have this illusion. Coaching would certainly help. It would bring value, and it would add, in your own efforts in a right direction. That is what here we are doing very seriously. Okay. History optional syllabus to main syllabus. GS main and optional history. Once you read optional, you do not have to prepare extra for GS main, whether ancient, medieval, modern, or world. That is what that you can save time, and you can devote that time for your other parts of GS. Okay. So I'm very thankful to you for your patient listening. My colleague, Mr. Ravin Dikshit, is waiting outside, and he would also guide you about his subject, ancient history and culture. So, wish you all the best and see you soon in the classes. Thank you.
Shall I take ancient history? Prehistory to 7th century. Now more than that. Sir, can you please compare history with anthropology? This prehistory is called anthropology. Anthropology means study of the evolution of humans. As a subject, I am comparing. Okay. Now, few things for ancient history. Most important. First thing, it do not have story. As a student of history, it's a negative. It do not have proper story. Jैसे for example, you must have heard about Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya. It is only mentioned as Sandrocotus in some books. So Chandragupta Maurya is Sandrocotus. That's assumption. Entire of the history is based on that assumption. So story is missing. But the best part is the story is missing. So political questions also are less. So political questions will be a bit lesser. No one is going to ask you how Ashok expanded his empire. Akbar expanded his empire, important. British, you must have heard about those wars, Afghan wars, Maratha wars, but not in ancient history. So there is no political history to question and political history to answer. What they ask is forces of history. Now, the meaning of forces of history is a lot of foreigners came to India. You must have heard about Greek, Scythian, Parthian, how they affected us. When tribals were associated, what happened in that? So it is hardcore concepts. Generally will be relatively easy to understand. So it is devoid of. Does history also need to be updated with current affairs? Not for you. Not for you. I'll tell you what is this. So it is devoid of political history. It is full of concepts. And concepts are simple and easy. Remember it once, use it forever. Optional paper of history is the most predictable. GS paper of history is the most random. As you must have heard about prelims paper of history questions. So the most random. Optional paper is most predictable. Whatever will be taught, guarantee will be asked. What will be the source? Class notes. In GS, I never say class notes are enough. In optional, I always say class notes are enough. You will not need to read any book. But yes, for your own mental calmness, NCRT. Apart from them, whatever are the books, Upinder Singh, Ignu, ये R.S. Sharma, Romila Thapar, I will include that in notes. So notes will be a bit thicker, but that will be more than sufficient. And last thing about mapping. So what is mapping? Let me show you. Please tell me. British city. हाँ जी, British city. कोलकाता नहीं, कैलकाटा. Then a pilgrimage center. Pilgrimage center. हाँ जी. Present day, present day. कोई guess? Sort of either Vaishno Devi or Amritsar, Golden Temple. Abhi map of states are not there. Then one IPL team, CSK, IPL team, who never saw Bangalore. Now thing is, if you know about history of India, if you know about India, mapping is the most intuitive question. Students say they have problem with mapping. You don't have problem with mapping. You have problem with the knowledge of history. You don't know history. As for example, an ancient capital. What is the ancient capital city? Patliputra, Patna. The moment you will get the knowledge, there is no chance you will not answer the question. There is no chance. As for example, if I ask you from history only, a pilgrimage center. Kedarnath? No, both Gaya is in south of Patna. Either call it Varanasi or Prayagraj, Allahabad, east of Patna. So Varanasi, Kashi, Sarnath. Meaning is, if you have the knowledge of history, if you have knowledge of topic, there is no point you will be missing the mapping questions. Last year, 20 questions were asked. Student could mark 19 with full authority. And the best thing about and the worst thing about mapping is 50 marks of mapping, 20 maps. If you could do all the 20 right, imagine how they will evaluate your copy after that. If I give you a notebook or if a copy, student's copy, where you get 50 out of 50. So after that, all of your questions, if they see this, all of the questions will be evaluated by with a great respect. And if you have done 0 out of 50, so just by look at the notebook, person will understand that you are an idiot, you don't know anything. So mapping is the most intuitive thing, which generally students feel is most awkward. The reason is they don't practice mapping. ठीक है तो that's mapping. Another thing is sources. You must have heard about sources. Sources means Ashokan inscription, Arthashastra, Rig Ved, Yajurved. So I hope those who have even attended the GS class must be aware that there we discuss in these only. Prayag Prashasti, Nane Ghat Prashasti. Hai na? In GS itself we discuss, optional, so obviously. Entire discussion is on the based of sources. Jaise for example, Ashok was good or bad? According to Ashokan inscriptions, good. According to Ashok Avadhan, good. But when we do our own analysis, so we will find the negatives of it. Meaning is, history is read with the help of sources. You need not to read sources, because if some of you have any idea of reading history, so the great problem discussed is sources. For example, you must have heard a king named Pushyamitra Shunga. Pushyamitra. Pushyamitra Shunga is a persecutor of Buddhism according to Ashok Avadhan, a book. But then this book is about Buddhism, and Pushyamitra was a Hindu king, Brahmana. Obviously, it will criticize. So, story is analysis. You need not to do analysis separately. There is nowhere that first you read the history and then you do the analysis. All of you who are interested in politics, just by the look of a leader's statement, you understand what is his politics, why he is saying so. Suddenly, if you see the leader have changed the stance according to the party, we all know he is going to join the party. It's not that first you read the news and then later you go and do analysis. Study itself, sources itself are analysis. So while we discuss the history, we discuss the sources. And one more thing is, you must have heard about historiography. Historiography is nothing but the study of sources. It's a political statement, but if I ask you, BJP government is good government or bad government? हाँ जी आप बताओ. As a student, you will say this, but you will not give like this, na? You will take some name. According to NDTV, bad. You want to say bad, but don't say bad. According to them, good. They say this, they say that. And that is based on sources. Ashok is a good king, according to Ashokan inscription. According to various later analysis, Ashok will also considered as the cruel or impractical king. A king who's not securing the border is good king or a moral king? A king who's not securing the border is a good king or a moral king? According to you, he is moral. So today, if government takes away the army, so it will be moral government. So story itself is analysis. While story itself analysis is done, knowledge of a story is analysis. If you can't analyze something, always remember you lack the story. Its analysis is not a separate part. ऐसा नहीं कि something else, someone else will first, someone will tell you story, and later in your home you will do analysis. While telling the story, when judge has to understand the analysis of the case, he asks both the persons to narrate the story in front of him. While story only, you will find. So historiography is sources, and on the basis of sources, we do the story. Mapping is knowledge of history. If you have the knowledge of history, you will do the mapping. Please tell me, what is this from where a highway goes? One highway crosses from this. That is called Khyber Pass. And one pass here called Bolan Pass. And that will tell you why Indus Valley civilization developed here. And that will tell you why all the wars are between Peshawar to Delhi. Jitne war hai, Panipat, Tarain, Tarauri, Karnal, all of these wars are fought here. Why all the capitals are here? Meaning is, only three things you have to follow. Story, which is based on sources, and sources are historiography. And this is 100% guarantee. Apart from notes, you will not need anything else. You want to read, I'll tell you the books, but you will not need those books. Sir, also please tell about historiography and how should we have to implement answer writing with one example. Just because you have asked, answer writing. Answer means diversity of answer. You always get marks for the diversity of your answer. You will never get marks for the depth of your answer. If I ask you, give your views on Mahatma Gandhi, and you started giving me the views, he was a great leader, very non-violent, Gandhi ji was very good, अंग्रेजों को पीट पीट के, सॉरी, दे दी हमें आजादी, बिना खड्ग बिना डाल, साबरमती के संत ने कर दिया कमाल, you will get very less marks. If you have to write about Mahatma Gandhi, so start thinking in diversity. And diversity means think in points. Don't write in points, think in points. What is Satyagraha? Then what is his passive resistance? What is constructive program? What is destructive, etc., etc. Keep on. And then ensure that they have keywords. And then you can do some criticism also. जैसे according to some British officer, I don't want to name, Gandhi ji was allowed by British to do all these revolutions. Why Gandhi was not arrested during Dandi March? By Dandi March, he is going to make salt, someone may arrest him. Because British also think that Gandhi is saying non-violence. And in a 30 crore country, 3 lakh British always would love non-violence. So if Gandhi is walking and Indians are following him, British don't love Gandhi, but at least British are okay that they are following a non-violent person. If we will put him in jail, people like Bhagat Singh will get the support. So Gandhi ji is a needed evil for British Empire. For British, he is a evil, but he is a needed evil. So this is one historiography. Was he a needed evil? Then there is one more view, Bhagat Singh. He says, Charkha you are saying will give Azadi. In 18th century, we all had charkha. We were the biggest textile producer. But we are still colonized because we lacked guns, because we lost Plassey and Buxar and all the wars. Charkha will not give the Azadi. If charkha could have given the Azadi, charkha to we had in 18th century, textile producer. Guns will give Azadi. According to Bhagat Singh, this is their view on Gandhi. Rabindranath Tagore says, your method is right, but your demand is not right. It's like I do Satyagraha to teach science and tech. Satyagraha is good, non-violent, but my demand is not good. So Tagore had this criticism of Gandhi. Historiography is these point of views. And everyone loved the diversity. Abhi I am talking about Gandhi in front of you. And for the last 5 minutes, if I would have talked about non-violence only, you would also said, he know only non-violence. The more diversity in your views is the historiography. As much diversity as possible. If you have to write on any event, Guptas, their age was golden age. I can't give you example because I know you don't know anything. So we have to write both the views. Both the views. More views you cover, better answer it will be. Answer need 2 things. Diversity, and in this diversity, keywords. Points should have diversity and points should have keywords. Every point should have some keyword. If you could quote the source according to this, that's the best thing. If I ask you to write on Prime Minister Modi, one person writes positive only, one person writes negatives only. It will not be considered as good answer. You have to cover both. And my job is to obviously help you. We start the story with the help of views. How you know anything? None of you ever saw Mahatma Gandhi, none of you ever saw Prime Minister Modi. But still you talk about him. All of your knowledge is based on sources. Quoting the sources is historiography. Diversity of the sources is historiography. And diversity of the view is a good answer. And at the end, all of this boils down to answer writing. Answer writing. Role of subjectivity in history, right answer. Everything is subjective. Subjectivity, everything is subjective. Why British were good or bad? British were good or bad? हाँ जी आप बताएं. British were good. So, if you have to write the answer, 7 points of bad, 3 points of good, or 2. They established infrastructure. Although they were not here to open NGO. They did not open it because they want or because they want to develop us. But yes, because of their policies, education, technology, some things came. And this is bad. This is subjectivity. You have to give the balanced answer. How many lectures will be taken? But don't ask this a lot. You ask any batch of GS and optional, they will tell you the greatest problem is too many classes. If we study for optional, it will cover prelims and mains also. Yes. History is that subject. In GS also they have to study optional. एक चीज समझ ले. Those who study GS from me, they also know it is almost optional. Almost. There is no shortcut of knowing the story. In concept, there are shortcuts. Story mein to obviously you will have to know it. Apart from class hours, how much time one has to spend to excel? How you spend that time, it depends. How you spend that time. A student's job is to keep searching the diverse points. Just for example, if I say, those who are living in Delhi metro. One way to spend your time, roam in Delhi metro. Take ticket, bhago Delhi metro. Another is watch videos of Delhi metro. What a student should do? Produce the diverse points. Haji, give me some points on Delhi metro. It is a metro in Delhi. This is how students write answer. Delhi metro is metro in Delhi. Haji. It's a public communication or mass transit system. This is a keyword. Mass transit. Second thing, started in 2002. Just open the website and find it has, let's say, 400 stations and cover 290 kilometers. Daily 25 lakh people. Then you write other things. What are the positives? And there are some limitations, not negative. Lack of exchange stations, no coverage and all this. Bas, prepare this. This is your answer on Delhi metro. Anything will be asked from this. It is the layman example of Delhi metro. If you have to write on Buddhism, so likewise, when it developed the basic philosophy of Buddhism, then philosophy, then relevance, etc. Keep it in a page. More question you read, more answers you will get. Faculty name for optional. 4 faculties. I hope you name to. It saves times and decrease traffic in city. Thanks. So, Rohan sir will take medieval history. Rohan sir. So, just I wanted to convey about these things. And there is no story. That's the good thing about ancient. That's why you will hear that students prefer questions of ancient history. And it is also the focus of government. In GS last 3 years, they asked 3 questions. All 3 from Vedic age. Because every right-wing historian wants to project ancient history as the golden age. According to right-wing historian, medieval age is the age of brutality, decadence, destruction. Ancient history, according to them, is that glorious golden age where we all lived with the peace, where we all lived in the prosperity. So that's why in GS also they asked this. Last year they asked what is the difference between Rig Vedic and later Vedic age. So I hope you understood what I wanted to convey. If there is any question, you may ask. Question? In optional, timelines are not asked. GS may they are asked. In optional, it is not asked. When India got independence? When was emergency in India? National emergency. Indira Gandhi Valley. When India did economic reforms? When Prime Minister Modi became PM? Which year COVID struck? Name is 2019, COVID is in 2020. You did not jumble up in any of these events. इसमें तो नहीं आपको कोई problem. Why so? Why you are so clear in these? Events this famous are only required. Itne famous events. You will never forget them. In optional, no one is going to ask you, tell me when Ashok started ruling. When you will go in the advanced mathematics, no one will ask you 27 cube. I hope you are aware in advanced mathematics, calculator is not needed. Calculator is needed in 8th, 9th questions. Advanced mathematics में ये नहीं होता. Advanced mathematics will tell you how it is greater than 0. This type of questions. No one will ask you timeline. That's a great myth. In history optional, show me a single question of timeline. I'll tell you how to read it. There is not a single, एक सवाल नहीं है timeline. No timeline are needed at all. No timeline. First, Prime Minister Nehru became PM or Prime Minister Modi became PM. But this much knowledge is needed. You will never jumble this up. First Stone Age will come or first Mauryan Age will come. Stone Age. You will not jumble up this. समझ आई बात? Material will be provided that much कि you won't be able to. मतलब it is. Don't worry about all these things. Yeah. You ask, वैसे तो why to ask me? You ask past year students, they will tell you. It is so much that ये तो guarantee. In GS there is no such guarantee because GS paper is made not very scholarly. GS paper is made randomly. Students are generally scared of history by GS because GS history is difficult. Let me tell you what is the difference between questions. कहते छोटा सा example है, useless example again. देखो GS history will ask you questions like, let me compare GS with Bollywood. जैसे Bollywood का GS question. Please name a movie of Shah Rukh Khan and Ajay Devgan. हाँ जी, one movie of Shah Rukh Khan and Ajay Devgan. जी के over. अच्छा, name one movie of Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan. These are GS style questions. What is optional style question? Optional questions. Describe the importance of good direction in movie making. How good direction is important for movie making. Now, if you remember some good movies, quote the example. If you remember something, it will become your example. Even if you don't remember, you will be able to write it. Describe the importance of good marketing in success of a movie. How good marketing helps movie success. This is an optional style questions. GS style questions are like this. Ki in that song, Shah Rukh Khan was wearing black shirt or white shirt. Go and find out. That's why students are scared of this. And it's very natural. When a student bring me a GS question, sir, in that paper a GS question came. So I also feel कि God knows what comes. I also read it with full caution कि अब बेइज्जती होने वाली. But when a student bring me optional question, believe me, I do it with full confidence because I know a conceptual question will be asked. In optional, they will ask you questions like analyze the role of Mahatma Gandhi in Indian national movement. In GS, they will give you name of two distant leaders, some tribal leader, and will ask you they are related to which rebellion. The students get scared by these things. They think in optional they have to remember this 10 times now. And I can show you the questions. Optional question. So you have so many questions. This year they asked in optional. In modern history they asked. Jinnah never made clear what is the aim of Pakistan movement. No history is needed. No knowledge is needed. Simply your understanding. And that's why in Pakistan still they are fighting. To Maulvi Jinnah told Pakistan means Islamic State. To moderate Muslim Jinnah told Pakistan means better opportunity. To Muslim student Jinnah said Pakistan means Hindus will not take your jobs. To everyone he told one thing. Yes, a political party do all the promises. So obviously he was a politician, he did all the promises. If you have this clarity of concept, that's it. Write as much as you can. Current affairs in history. Good thing about history is it is not at your level. You need not to do any current affairs. It's not at all involved. The reason is, yes, some recent debates are asked, but no one is interested. I mean, you must have heard the site of Sinoli. Naam suna Sinoli? Not important. You must have heard Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu says anyone will decipher Indus Valley script will get $1 million. Not important for you. You will not get that $1 million. Means you will not require that. Updation in GS is not asked because updation is so controversial. भाई ये बताओ, आई थिंक यू मस्ट हैव सॉ दैट, कौन सी वो छावा मूवी, औरंगजेब वाज अ गुड किंग और बैड किंग? विल नेवर बी आस्क्ड, यू विल नॉट बी आस्क्ड दिस. हाँ, क्वेश्चन ऑन औरंगजेब फ्रॉम दिस कुड बी आस्क्ड, a traditional question on Aurangzeb. This brought Aurangzeb in limelight, but that's it. They will not ask you analyze the impact of Chhawa movie on the image of Aurangzeb. ऐसा ये कोई, no one will ask you. If GS questions are different from optional, then how come just, the reason is you will go through that story. You need not to remember that. In optional, you need not to remember that story में तो character आएंगे ही. But in optional, you have no pressure of remembering them. In optional, you will have to use them. ऐसा थोड़ी है इसमें you will not write any movie. इसमें movie नहीं लिखोगे. In this, you have to write movie. इसमें भी तो movie का नाम लिखोगे. But there you need not to have obligation to know the specific names. You can quote whichever name you remember. This is more adjustable. जैसे you will see prelims, not at all adjustable. Exact knowledge is needed. Mains is a bit more adjustable. Interview is entirely adjustable. In interviews, a person is in front of you, even if you don't know any answer, and you tell it humbly, and you try to convey that you know. And an interview is much like ragging. He should like you. First thing is yes, liking. Imagine he asked a question and you know the answer. And he say, I don't think it is right. You say, it is right. Khatam, end of your interview. So interviews are more manageable. Mains is less manageable. Prelims is not all manageable. Likewise, optional questions are manageable. It also need information. GS questions are less manageable. It need exact information. How online students' doubt get resolved as they are getting resolved. Whether I give my number also. Here also many of you may be having my number. Everyone. Number तो I write on my forehead. So this is the concept. If you have any question, I think, let me. I have told na chronology. This it's like this. You will not forget. First Mauryan came, then Gupta came, and before Mauryan was Mahajanpad, and before that Vedic age, and before Indus Valley civilization. This much. And believe me, I'm not making it up. Really, I always feel that students generally have the view of history from GS. And that too, I don't want to comment it, that too. On YouTube and all, you must have seen teachers who open that slide. They make the subject very oppressive. Subject is not this oppressive. It's an oppressive subject. As if you have to teach someone, just one example. You have to teach someone about political parties of India. Parties of India. One way of teaching is I bring a slide. इसमें लिखा हो BJP, Congress, INC, Jhamumo, TMC, DMK. Imagine how oppressive it is. Imagine what will happen to the student. I bring a long slide and state-wise 10 parties. अभी तो इसमें और बची हैं आप, SP, BSP, लिख डालूं मैं 50 parties. How oppressive it is. Another way is I start telling a story. The first Indian National Congress was formed. Then Nehru signed a pact. There was a opposition of this. Bharatiya Jan Sangh appeared. And before that, Congress was bourgeois party. So 1924 CPI was made. It is the left-wing party. It is the right-wing party. From Congress, some people made Trinamool Congress of Bengal. Nationalist Congress Party, वो शरद पवार है ना, महाराष्ट्र में they break away. And then there are some allies. फिर they all came together, formed Janta faction. In these various parties, then BJS changed its name, and from Janta faction, BJP, say the JDU. This will be much more interesting. ज़्यादा interesting. So one problem of subject itself is कि people generally view this subject from this point of view. It has brute force knowledge. It do not have brute force knowledge. इतनी knowledge कहते हैं. How is it possible? In polity subject is taught a bit better. Everywhere polity subject is taught a bit better. The students are told beforehand. Article 14 is important. 19 is important. 21. Imagine I start teaching polity by giving you the long list of all the articles. And start teaching article number 1, article number 2, article number 3, article number 19, article number 28, article number 49. How oppressive it will be. So history is made a bit oppressive in the ignorance of teachers also and students also. It is shown as such an oppressive subject. ऐसा दिखाया जाता है, it is projected as such an oppressive subject. It has only information. Believe me, do not have this much information. इतना information. No one humanly can have this much information. इतनी information, how can you have? It's simply, now then I will ask you कि there are three main factions. Left wing, centrist, right wing. फिर इसमें एक हिंदू महासभा, you must have heard. In left wing, CPI break into after China wall. One became Maoist CPM, one became CPI, one kept CPI ML. There was three different view on India's involvement in China war. So India, China, these break away. So likewise, this split appeared. And then this leader fought, फिर वो leader ने उससे कहा, he said this, he said that. And that's how all the political parties. So see history as this tree. It's more of a tree. And in that only very famous one are to be needed. BJP, Congress, CPI थोड़ी भूल जाओ. You will not forget this. No one will ask you these things. Hundreds of dynasty, nowhere it is asked. Every subject has a soul. You have to cover that soul. जैसे in economy, cause and effect is the soul. Why inflation? And what inflation will do? What it will do. Why interest rate is going down and what interest rate going down will do. Why inflation came and what that inflation will do. Why all prices are rising and how it will affect us. What is repo rate and how repo rate affect on the market. Cause and effect is the soul of this economy. Likewise, events, the major events are the soul of history. Events meaning their interpretation is soul of history. Jesse, please tell me, you should celebrate independence of India or sad on partition of India? They say celebrate independence. They say be sad on partition. Yeah, they say independence is important. There was a time when majority of questions were on independence. Now majority of question will be on partition. This is the soul of subject. Covering this is soul. And then you will understand which leader said what. Today, if Aam Aadmi Party leaders, according to them, Delhi is well governed or badly governed today, according to Aam Aadmi Party leaders, good or bad, you know it because you know the soul of politics. You know it, they will say bad. Obvious है bad. And if I give you a question according to Aam Aadmi Party, analyze the governance of Delhi today. तो आप अपने मन से लिख दो. You can write on your own. If you know the core, you don't even know the views. You don't even need them. On your own, you can write. And according to BJP leaders, suddenly Delhi's government improved or further deteriorated. So you know, suddenly it improved. Suddenly Yamuna stopped stinking. Suddenly it became very clean city. So you all have the idea if you just cover the core of the subject. Uski atma hoti hai, just hold the soul and you will be able to do it. ठीक है. Chalo, let me call Chandra. Any question? समझ गया मैं comment. Will it be beneficial for UGC NET 2? I have less idea of UGC NET, but history as a subject everywhere remains same. This is to 100% sure. History and mathematics, they can't change. I don't want to say this, I am not a subject supremacist, but as mathematics is the basis of social science, natural sciences, history is the basis of social sciences. And half of the modern history is PubAd. History's society is called sociology. History's prehistory is called anthropology. So obviously, they select, so you will have to do it. I am not here to tell you what to select. Obviously, I teach history. But yes, you will have to select on your own. Let me call Chandrabhan sir.
So I'll not discuss about what should be the strategy for preparing this, because I guess the other faculties have already done that. And also, what are the benefits of taking history? Every optional has its own set of challenges and also its offerings. So I think Tariq sir and Praveen sir have discussed. So I will not say anything on that. I just have to add one thing before I talk to about my niche area, that is modern world history, is that preparing any optional would take a lot of hard work and would require a lot of in-depth study. So there is no shortcut to that. So nobody can take away the fact that whenever you have to prepare any optional, because optional is more specialized, more multi-dimensional preparation of a subject. Multi-dimensional means although you are studying history, but you also bring other perspectives into picture, and also you go into much in-depth study. And that is why the reason why anyone should go for any guidance is to save time. Basically, it is to save time and also to save confusion and a lot of unnecessary effort, that people should take guidance in whatever way it suits you, whether it is a full-time classroom program or any module. It depends upon what what is your situation. That is one thing I have to say. Second, when I talk about modern world history, which I'll be taking here in optional foundation program, so I will be covering the modern world history for optional largely from the class notes, although I give 2 volumes of textbook printed material and some handouts also from time to time, but largely I rely on class notes. The reason why, because over the years I have realized is that students, they don't get time to do much reading after then after putting a lot of effort in the class. So the classroom duration is generally of 2.5 hours, but it easily stretches to 3 hours in most of our classes. And the reason is why, because teaching and studying history optional with its narratives flow. So you want to complete a section and then take it up in the next class, the next one. Fine. So it requires a lot of effort on both sides. And I realized that after putting that effort, and then you have to go and revise the class notes, solve the PYQs. We do that PYQs in class. So after that, there is not much room that remains to do readings. Still, I recommend books, that if you want to read books, or if you want to go through the reference material, it is, you are always welcome to do that if you have time. And if in any area you find that after going through the class notes you want to read something more, then please do that. First is this. Fine. Also on internet there are the interviews or the blogs of selected students who in their personal capacity have written what what clicked for them. So it has been seen that they have also come up with the book readings and suggestions. And many of these toppers, or many of those who have cracked the examination, did also take guidance from institutions or faculties at some moment during their preparation. So that is one thing I would like to say about this. Second, before I take up whatever questions that remain, because I can see I was also following the video live on YouTube, like many students, that Tariq sir and Praveen sir have answered most of the questions. So still, if there are questions regarding the course or regarding the syllabus, please feel free to ask. As far as studying history or historical thought is concerned, it is very important for you to understand the historical thought. What I mean by historical thought, a number of things have to be clear when we read history optional, be it any section. One is definitely events. What are the developments? Because every moment is a history in the making. In fact, whatever we are doing now, but we don't. Everything cannot be recorded as a part of historical thought. Fine. So those events or developments which have changed the course or which have influenced the course of history are historical events. So whenever any student starts preparing for history optional, I suggest them that if you have time, then you should ideally go through one NCRT, old or new, whatever is there. Old NCRTs are more detailed, so I suggest that you should read old NCRTs. Why? Because once it will give you a larger picture, means you would know that okay, in modern world history, uh, before we start with Renaissance, we should know something about the Dark Ages. Fine. Then what led to Renaissance? Fine. Then what was the impact of Renaissance? Then the growth of trade and commerce. So then you would largely understand what followed and how they are linked also. So it means at least you should know the story. That is first advice that I can give to all of you, that if you have made up your mind, and largely people do make up their mind when they take up their UPSC preparation. Largely people make up their mind between one or two subjects, and as they read in 1 month, they are sure that yes, this is based on my area of interest. So first thing I would say that you should do that. And when you go through the historical thought, because one thing that is often asked is that how preparing a GS is different from optional. Although the events are the same, true, whether it is modern Indian history, modern world history, ancient Indian history, medieval Indian history, events are same. But what changes when you prepare history optional? What changes? The change is in your approach. In GS, we largely take things at face value. Means any area. For example, when we study World War II, fine. When we study World War II, and if we are a GS student, then we read the events or Europe between the two world wars. What were the major developments that happened? Right? And then a question is asked. In fact, this was asked in 2015, that to what extent Hitler was responsible for the outbreak of Second World War. This was a simple question. So in a GS, you are largely expected to answer it in a way that you would see that, okay, we have to see two things. One, the Nazi ideology. What were they trying to achieve? And what Hitler in his personal capacity and as the head of Nazi Germany did. So you would say that, okay, right from 1933 to the outbreak of Second World War, 1939, what were the major steps taken by Hitler, and to what extent for these steps or these aggressive actions, Hitler must be blamed, not what happened after First World War. That is where you would get a good marks, roughly in 2 to 250 words. But in history optional, what is interesting is that not only you look at the events or what is at face value, what is presented in the textbooks, but you go a step deeper into analyzing it from multiple perspectives. For example, there is a very famous historian, A.J.P. Taylor, who has written a book, The Origins of Second World War. In that book, he says that if we look at some of the steps of Hitler, if we make a comparative analysis of the military arsenal of Germany to that of Britain and France, it does not look that Hitler was preparing for a war, because in many ways he was disadvantaged. Britain and France were more aggressive, or Britain and France actually should be blamed. So this is where you go a step ahead. Otherwise, a GS student would not bother to think about, okay, let me look at how well they were prepared militarily before the outbreak of Second World War. So that is where we see that you take into account, multiple dimensions when you answer a good question, and that is what makes it interesting also. That is why the first thing I said, that you should take an optional, especially history optional, not considering its syllabus or utility. First is your interest. If you do not have interest, then you would not love to read about Adolf Hitler, how his personal feelings, how his personal challenges also influenced his mindset. And if you have interest, I am sure, and it is not something I'm telling you, that you would remember most of the things. So when you look at historical thought, there are a number of questions that we approach or that we come across from time to time. First is that what has shaped any historical event? What is the determining factor? For example, we know that according to Karl Marx, who had given economic determinism theory, he has studied everything in history from the perspective of materialism, class struggle. So if a history optional student has to write an answer that what led to Second World War, then the person will not only restrict oneself to Hitler, but would go into the economic aspect also. Great Depression, 1929, brought about a change in European politics. This is one perspective. Thomas Carlyle had said that history was shaped by great man theory. So this is one approach also. Another approach of studying history, I will talk about world history, is that you study the role of important personalities in modern world history. Who are the important personalities in modern world history? You would say, sir, Napoleon Bonaparte, Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, is it? Franklin D. Roosevelt, W.E.B. Du Bois, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. So this is one. Second approach is that history is shaped by human reason. Then you bring into perspective how mindset of the people began to change from Renaissance. Mindset first of the middle class and then of the masses also, especially during the era of enlightenment. Then you read what was the impact of Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Rousseau's writings on European history. Then we cannot, although modernity or modern world history has tried to keep religion away from politics, but we know that religion has also played an important role. Saint Augustine has said that human history is governed by divine will. Religion has also played an important role. You'll read modern Indian history and the partition that followed or that was accompanied with the transfer of power was shaped by religion. What is the role of religion? Not only during the dark ages, in the present times also. Present times also. Then some say that history is not only led by great leaders, history is not only by human reason, history is not only by this, not only by economy, but by social forces also. Social forces also. So here you take into account social forces means what were the social changes that have happened. And because I'll be taking modern world history, so we'll see the rise of modern European society. In sociology, students read same thing, but they read modern European society, challenges in the modern European society, Indian society, challenges in the modern Indian society, how the learnings from European society can help and is of no help in Indian society. Social aspect, social changes, rise of feminist movement in Europe, especially after Enlightenment, after Industrial Revolution. And what is it? Because modern Indian history and modern world history is in paper too, so many a times we will be seeing overlap also. In GS classes also we do, but in modern world history the overlap will be more. Fine. So when you prepare modern world history, you try to not only take things at face value or cause and effect, which is a traditional way of reading history, but you try to go into slightly more depth, and that is where the classroom comes into picture. In classroom, not only you understand the story, that is easier part, but you try to understand the story from multiple angles. Sometimes this is presented in the form of historiography. Students often ask this question that to what extent naming history in history optional, should we mention historians' views, yes or no? I would say to some extent yes. Presenting the view of a historian in history optional answer, it authenticates a view, but you should not be obsessed by it. For example, when you read what was responsible for the rise of nation states in Europe, definitely if you write Benedict Anderson's name, his book Imagined Communities published in 1983, it gives a lot of weight. And there's no second thought about it that a good answer, especially in optional, has to be good in content also. Yes, presentation is there. So this is one thing that I always emphasize. Second thing, let me answer a question. How to revise on a consistent basis? Simple. Means again, see, the revision strategy can vary from from student to student, but I would suggest that every day after you are done with your classes, I would recommend strongly that you should go back and give at least 45 minutes with your class notes. You should revise the class notes, highlight it, make your supplementary notes or whatever is there. Then maybe at the end of the course, once you have revised, read your class notes multiple times, if you have time, you can make a crisp note. If you have time. Sometimes students, what they do is that instead of making crisp note, because they don't have time for it, what they do is that they on the margins they write the keywords, so that when they have to revise, so it depends. And I would say that to some extent your creativity would come into picture. Good thing about this batch, which is starting on 20th April, is that you are starting quite early. Quite early means by the time this batch would be over, still you will have 2.5 to 3 months to revise your class notes and some readings 1 or 2 times before you move exclusively to prelims preparation. And then after prelims, you can write tests and you can appear in the mains examination. Writing answer, yes, tests are done, tests are taken, sectional tests are taken by the faculties from time to time, and they evaluate and they share the feedback also. Also, not only tests, but we also encourage students to attempt PYQs as and when a section is dealt in the class, and share it with the faculty. Online students, they email, and offline students, they meet and discuss with the faculty before and after the class. So after you write 10 to 12 answers, you also get a hang of how to write a good introduction. It is something that you would learn only while you start writing. Something that if I start telling you now how to write a good answer, then possibly you would not be able to appreciate it much. Please. Initially, when you start answer writing, I would say that you should not focus on word limit or anything. Initially, for the 1 month, I would say that just write, try to understand the demand of the question. When you start answer writing, the first challenge that everybody faces, most of the students, is that they do not understand the demand of it, because the questions are not straightforward. The questions are not very straightforward, like what are the causes of World War I? It is a simple question. So first thing I say that everybody should learn how to comprehend the demand of the question, and while doing that, even if you write more, it's okay. Even if you write say 300-350 words in your initial answers, that's not an issue. But over a period of time, with feedback, you will understand that okay, how I will make my introduction more crisp, where I have to add historians' views. Sometimes I have more knowledge, space is limited, especially in a 10-marker question, 150 words. How to creatively use flowcharts, whether or not required. So again, as I say, you cannot learn swimming by standing outside the pool, you have to jump into the water. So once you write more, you would yourself develop, and it will happen that you would have your own bag of tricks, up your sleeves to write good answers. History optional needs to be updated with current affairs. Yes, it has to be, but not by you, but by the faculties themselves. For example, recently a lot of discussion has been going on the beginning of Iron Age in Tamil Nadu, South India. And based on the latest last archaeological evidence, it has been pushed back by almost 1,000 years, I think 3450 BCE. Now, this is something that is interesting, and it is not based on mere speculation, but based on authentic archaeological data. So, if a question is asked on megalithic age or megalithic culture in South India, then definitely you have to put it here. Definitely you can do that. So, one thing, yes, in comparison to other subjects like political science, the relevance of current affairs in history is a bit limited. But yes, it has been seen that in modern world history, because many of the international events have a historical background, related to Cold War. So sometimes you can start your answer by giving reference to a recent development, and then you can write the full history optional answer. So that is one thing I would like to tell you. Right? So as I was telling you about historical thought, please feel free to ask more. That when you study modern world history, from section to section, you see that approach changes. Sometimes we focus more on personality centric, Like during Abraham Lincoln Civil War, we'll focus more on Abraham Lincoln, American Civil War, fine. Or from 1799 to 1815, whenever we talk about French politics, we'll focus on Napoleon. Or when we talk about Second World War, we will focus on the role of Winston Churchill, fine. So it is there. Sometimes it is personality centric. When we talk about apartheid in South Africa, we would inevitably talk more about role of Nelson Mandela, but we will also talk about the nature of apartheid and the role of global institutions also into it. In history, there is one school of thought that is called as subaltern history. 1980s, heard of it? Subaltern history from below. Gyanendra Pandey, Partha Chatterjee, Ranajit Guha. Interesting. So they say that why to focus only on leaders? Why not talk about mass mobilization on the ground level? So in modern Indian history, and you would read essentially about subaltern. In world history also you read about the role of masses. Like one very famous statement is that French Revolution was a real mass revolution. Role of masses. There is a historical debate that the first phase of Russian Revolution, French Revolution, was a spontaneous leaderless revolution. Now on this leaderless revolution, there is again a conflict of ideas between Karl Marx and Lenin. Marx said that no, it will be leaderless proletariat revolution. Lenin says that it is not possible. It would lead to anarchy. So that is where you have to be more aware, more shrewd, and over a period of time, you would know that how to analyze every event in 4 or 5 say paradigm: economic, religious, then leader centric, role of masses, and social. Anything, any revolution, any major development, you would focus on these 5-6 dimensions, and every time any development would happen, you would look at it from these perspectives. And then what you'll do, second step is that you would, to authenticate the view, you would look for the historian or any famous book or any research which supports this view. Like some say, Charles Baird had said in his famous book, An Economic Interpretation of American Constitution, that American Constitution was not a constitution, it was a coup d'etat, it was an economic document. American Revolution was a revolution in which the rich, they fought and they mobilized the masses for their own interest. For their own interest. To what extent this view is right? So history optional is not an static subject, it is very argumentative. Argumentative means there are multiple arguments, and then after studying history optional, a true student would say that anything cannot be taken at face value, it has a other view also. It has a other view also. R.G. Collingwood had said that history is not about studying facts, history is about studying the interpretation of people who see this. For example, Tariq sir was saying, he would teach that there is a lot of debate on the partition of India, whether Indian National Congress has to be blamed, Jinnah, or it is the British and the circumstances that developed. Whether Hitler must be blamed, or what happened after First World War, or a combination of these ideas. So this is where analysis arguments come into picture, and definitely you will have to read a lot. How many classes? I am not sure about the number of classes for now, but I would say that generally we have classes all the 7 days a week. Why? Because the idea is to maintain a sense of continuity and to complete the syllabus in the shortest period as possible. The idea is to complete it in 6 months so that you have sufficient time to assimilate it, to revise it, and also to prepare for your GS prelims examination also. For now, it is not decided, but I think that mostly it will be on all the days of a week, and the timings is in the evening 5:30 to 8:30. Right? So I think I'll call my fellow faculties. I will not go much into academic depth now. For all of you who have decided to take history optional, welcome to this subject, which is not only about stories and narratives, but about arguments analysis. And before the course starts in the 1 month period, try to have a read of the NCERTs possible, even if not whole of it, some of the initial chapters. For example, for modern world history, class 9th and 10th NCERT, old NCERT, chapters such as Renaissance, Dark Ages, these chapters, Reformation, fine, then Discovery of New World, then you can read about American Revolution, French Revolution. So even if you read 5-6 chapters in the beginning, then you get a understanding, a hang of it. And then once the class starts, you feel very, very comfortable. And I can assure you that people who are not from history optional or have not read history in the recent times also find it very appealing. Why? Because again, it is an argument which is presented in the form of a story. So we present the argument later, but first we narrate the story. So here many GS students also find parallels in GS also. But what we cover in a GS class in say a matter of 4 hours, here it takes easily 14 to 15 hours. Because as I told you, in depth. And the idea is that I follow this policy that cover everything in the class so that you don't have to read anything extra apart from the class notes. Right? That is the idea. Even if the class notes are bulky, but they are a one-stop solution. They are a one-stop solution, and because they are your handwritten notes, they are a outcome of your sweat. So you would, preserve it, and you will realize the value of it. You can ask the faculties to come. We can. So they've asked me to conclude. So all the students who are watching the video live, offline students, because you have made up your mind, I would say that this is the best time for you to start. Why? Because now you can devote 3-4 months wholeheartedly on your optional. You can prepare in a very systematic way. You can write a lot of answers, fine. Once it happens that you go into the later phases, people join late also in October also, and they do well. I would not say they don't do well. But once you start, early movers advantage, as they say. So you will have a lot of time to read. You can devote 6-7 hours daily, and you can meet with the faculties here. Online students can interact with the faculty by writing emails, get their answers checked. So do not be in a dilemma. Whatever optional you have decided, and most of you who have decided for history optional, I would strongly recommend, based on whatever reasons we all have given, that take this step now. Fine. If you have any further doubt, then feel free to connect us on email, or those who are in the Delhi NCR, you can come over to the institute to meet us also. Who will teach medieval history? Rohan Srivastava sir will teach medieval history. Praveen Dikshit sir will teach ancient Indian history. Mohammad Tariq sir would teach modern Indian history, and I would teach modern world history. Fine. It is also, all the details of the course are mentioned on the website, and we have counselors here also in the working time who can assist you with the admission process or any doubt if you have related to the joining of the course, duration of the course, or the timings. Right. Recorded lectures. First of all, I discourage students to watch recorded lectures, because once you get into this vicious cycle of recorded lectures, then it affects your daily discipline. I would recommend that, yes, it is on the portal. So once you join a course, you get a login, username, password, and then on the portal, everyday lecture, once the lecture is done, it is there recorded for a few, I think for 1 day. But again, I would say that try to avoid watching recorded videos, because in a live class, you can ask doubt there. So it will be there, don't worry. All these things are there, material, recorded lectures, everything is there. Fine. So think in a day or two and decide and act on this. Thank you all of you.